in closing, all who have idols, do we worship things sometimes? Not all the time, but sometimes. Do we spend more time on certain things rather than God? Do we worry instead of trust God? Do we watch series instead of spend time with God? Do we put other things in our hearts, maybe even worry about money rather than trust God? All of those things are idols. And so when you look at it like that, like, because I've never bowed down to a golden calf, but it doesn't have to look like the form of a golden calf. So I have this plan to get through 2 books a month. So it's a book every 2 weeks. And sometimes I think about, okay, I have a certain amount of energy left at the end of my work day. And it's either write up my daily devotion from Proverbs and Psalms, or it's read a book on the Cottingham Killer, the Torso Killer. And so as much as God doesn't have a problem with me reading about serial killers, because I'm fascinated by the psychology and the reasoning behind the psychopath, sometimes I do feel like I'm choosing to read a book rather than spend time doing my daily devotion, because I haven't gotten to it yet. And in my mind, in the schedule, I know, that I'm supposed to listen to a sermon to start my day. I'm supposed to read through my scripture when I start the day. But sometimes I get up and I'm like, let's YouTube, let's do this. As in, let me prepare my YouTube channel. Let me do other things that can slowly, come on guys, that can slowly become an idol. That can, if I get into a routine of doing other things over my daily devotion, over putting God first, I will eventually make it an idol without meaning to. And God says live intentionally. God says live with a sober mind, where you know you need to put God first. So He doesn't mind having hobbies. He doesn't mind this being my ministry. But if I'm doing it without the correct heart intention, it can become an idol. Then we're disconnecting our relationship with God to just see it as a to-do list. You who boast in the law dishonor God by breaking the law. Don't really know what that means. I understand what they would mean by breaking a law, so you're just not following God's laws. But how does boast in the law dishonor? Unless what you're saying is that I tick the boxes every day. I'm a good girl because I tick the boxes. Because then I'm earning it. I achieved success today because I got 8 out of the 10 right today. Tomorrow we'll try hard again. It might mean that, because then that's legalism and it's not relationship. It's not the desire to be better. It's more like fear for the need to tick the boxes. It's written, the name of God is blasphemed among the Gentiles because of you. Gentiles is people in general, right? Blaspheme is to use God's name in vain. So if you're not talking to Him, if you're not praising Him, and you're using His name in a sentence, it's blaspheme. It is one of the sins that is considered really bad. So there is a separation of sins, where there's the deadly sins and then there's the normal sins. But also in perspective, those sins are also, everybody commits sin. So even if you committed one, you've still committed all of them. You're a lawbreaker, right? But blasphemy is put on, such as sexual immorality is also put on a higher platform, also specifically for teachers in the law, in Christianity. They're also put on a higher pedestal, so to speak. but they're also human like everybody else. So as much as it's like this, it's like this too. And just somehow it makes sense if you read the Bible, and if you read to understand, and if you pray to understand what the difference is between the 7 deadly sins and blaspheming and being crude and all these things. So like the difference between it, it's on the same scale, but it's also not on the same scale. It says that circumcision indeed is a value of the obedience of the law. So, but remember back when Romans was written, those who were circumcised was an indication of salvation. Now, circumcision is of the heart. It was worded interestingly for me in Romans, where it says circumcision is of the heart, as in your salvation is something that happens in the heart, so other people cannot see it. What other people will see is that you're serving others and you're talking this way and you're living that way. And that's what other people will see. But the physical circumcision as a sign and indication of salvation is not a thing today. And that's how the law changed when Jesus died. Jesus died so that that wouldn't have to happen anymore. That circumcision is in the spirit, where change and adaptation and the new you comes from your spirit. His praise is not from man, but from God. As in, for anybody who's Christian, who's walking the Christian life and finds it difficult, the aim is to praise and glorify God, not man. So some people might compliment you for your relationship with God and for walking strong, but the idea isn't to keep them happy or to get praise from them. The idea is to glorify God. Alright, so that is Romans chapter 2. And I encourage you to go read it. It is a bit complicated for me, but I also think it's very necessary to read sections in the Bible that are complicated.